Hey guys, welcome back to AFK Journey. In today's video, we are checking out some Ravaged realm teams for you guys to use. We're going to go through every faction with a bunch of options. We'll also talk about it because some free-to-players might struggle with some of these things and you will have to just make do with the best that you can. But I have to give a massive shout out to Season and Analytica for all of this information. They are probably the most meta-dominated community in the game. I'll leave a link to their Discord in the description, and they do update these things as well over time. So if they find out better teams as well through their Discord, you can get updated on other teams that are working and stuff like that. But I feel like they've got a good grasp on this battle for all the factions that we can go ahead and we can take a look at some teams so that hopefully you guys can sort of try and fill in your best team possible. Now, before we go into the team specifically, if you are looking at what charms to use, in general, if you go for the recommended in-game set for most characters, you're going to be pretty fine. Or just whatever you have. If you don't have complete sets, that's fine. This is just an old one they had when they were looking at Dream Realm. Just note some characters like Harak, he can use his crit one as well. But these are some of the higher priority ones based on Dream Realm, not specifically on this, of some of the ones that characters like. But once again, if you can just look at the generic recommended set and you have the set, you can slap them on most characters and get some decent damage. But these are just some of the ones that they recommend as more higher priority. In terms of charms, it's not the end of the world. Once again, you got to weigh up how hardcore you are and whether you're trying to go for rank 1 or whether you're just trying to do the best you can without too much stress, because there is that balance between different players. So let's jump in and talk about some of these teams. Now, the Lightbearer one, we do have the access to Freyester and Harak. If you have either of those two built or both of them built, that is absolutely fantastic. Harak dominates. He can deal a ton of damage in this one. Even if you have low dupe Freyester is still going to be a good option for this. Obviously, his synergy with Harak is fantastic, especially if you have him, but you'll notice that all of these teams do have the Freyester in here, and they give you the option that if you don't have a Freyester, you can use Lucius instead. But Freyester, once again, even at low dupes, is going to be a great option. Now, when we look at some of these teams, the first two teams are basically centered around Harak. Now, they do have Cassidy in here. For Cassidy, you really do want to have her Mythic Plus before she gets her full functionality. Ideally, with your Sinbad, he wants higher dupes as well, but he still does function decently well at lower investment. We do have Hugin as well, who pops up and can be of some use for his buffing capabilities, even if you are not fully invested, because once again, when we look at free-to-play players, because we are limited to one faction, you're probably going to end up using some characters that you don't have high dupes of, so keep that in mind. The other options we have is some people may have Tamisha built. She's a great option to slap in there as well. For a playable option for the first big team, you can just slap in whoever you have built. And once again, you can test these teams with low dupe characters and then go ahead and try with whatever characters you do have built to see if it works better. But in general, these ones with Harak, you're looking at making Harak the prime damage dealer. This one, you know, you're using Sonya, but you would be stealing Sonya from this team over here. We'll talk about team 2 in a minute. But ideally, that's the kind of formations you are looking at. Once again, this one down over here, we are stealing the Corrin over here, and then wherever they have just the symbol of the faction, that is where you can choose any character to slot in. But essentially, the best team is going to be involving Harak because he is absolutely fantastic. Once again, if you have Hugin built, you can test around with Hugins, or if you don't have Cassidy built, for instance, this first team, when we take a look at it, Vala, I feel like a lot of people do have Vala decently built just because she's just one of those ones that you put on the wish list for Lightbearer because you don't have much else to really prioritize on your wish list. So if you have a Vala built, she is going to be a great option to go ahead and slap in on one of your teams. And then this one over here, you know, if you don't have the Cassidy at a high investment, I'd try maybe even slapping the Hugin in here. You could even try the A-level healer chick whose name has completely left me at the moment. You could always try slapping her in as well and playing around with that. But that is the general core that we're looking at. Once again, if you don't have a Harak built, then you're looking at using this sort of thing and replacing or stealing something over here by using, you know, the Corrin or something like that. Now, when we look at the mini team, the 3-character team, if you are using one of these more optimal teams up the top, it means you will have a really ideal team left over for this, which is going to be Sonya paired with Corrin and Marilee. This is a really good combo for these ones, but once again, if you are stealing that Sonya over here for the team, or if you're stealing Corrin, then you're going to be using your Marilee because she will be left over, and you can slot in whatever 2 Lightbearers you like in this final spot. Once again, we're just resonating on the Marilee way so that she can go ahead and slap as much damage. Just note with these ones, another character in these top ones, if you don't have these completely built, you can slap the Rowan in here. You can see these two teams use Rowan with the waves. Rowan is definitely another option because of his power with it. So even in this one up the top, if you didn't have a Rock, you could even test it with something like a Rowan in there. Rowan moving forward, pumping up the energy so that Vala can use as many ults as possible would definitely be a viable strategy. But that is a look at the Lightbearers. Once again, if you don't have units built, you will just have to fiddle around with what you have. Maybe look on your server results and see if anyone else has low duped characters and see what kind of results they're getting as well. And you can always yoink stuff like that. As we jump into the Mauler team, now this one, we've only got 2 listed here. A massive shout out to all the players who have put in these teams. We've got Rosa and Becky over here, but massive shout out to everyone over on Analytica who contributes to this stuff, sharing their teams, their results and stuff like that. It's absolutely fantastic. So this one over here, you will require to have Mythic plus Shakir to make him work. Obviously, Mythic plus is where he starts buffing his allies, and that's what you really need. These 3... I think with Maulers, you're essentially looking at having a physical team and a magical team. You can see this is our physical team, this is our magical team. Over here, this is the magical team, and this is the physical team. That's essentially what you're looking at. Now, the reason this works so well is because Shakir obviously has his buffs for allies within range. Mikola has her buff for allies within range. And then we have the Death Shred from our Kruger, meaning over in this one, if you have a Seth, that would be absolutely huge. But once again, if you don't have Seth, you don't have Reese built up, you can just slap your Brutus in there and sort of fill the slots in with whatever you have. You just want at least one primary damage dealer over here to be able to try and deal some form of damage. But once again, you can always test Seth at low dupes, see if it gets you a decent result. For me, it ended up being my best result using a low dupe Seth in this team. So once again, the free to play, you're gonna not have everything built. So you will either have to use the things you do have built and see if they work, or sometimes the lower dupe things that synergize with the strategy may work better. So just keep that in mind. And so with this one, we're using our physical team over here, which leaves us with the Smokey, Odie, and also the Elsa over here. Once again, if you don't have Elsa built, you can try something else. Maybe you could try a Coco. Maybe the extra buffing on the Odie will work better than the Elsa because you are running the Resonator over here. Just depends. You got to play around with it and see. But obviously, Coco is another unit that a lot of people will have built to go ahead and try and slot into some of these teams. And then this one down here, they have swapped around and gone with magic for the big team and physical for the small team. Once again, this one is focused around on the little team using the Shakir and then the Seth to go ahead and get the main damage. So once again, you can try it low dupes or not. And then this one over here is making use of supports that basically a team that most people have with Smokey, Coco, Mikola, even if Mikola is low dupe. And then Odie, I feel like most people have this core completely built. And then you can slap in the Elsa as well. Now, once again, you can look to which one you want to use, whether you want to go for the magic damage, whether you want to put Resonator over here on the Odie. If you don't have a well-built Elsa, then maybe, you know, the Resonator is the better play for the Odie in something like this. So you can definitely experiment with that. Moving on from that, we jump into the Wilder team. Wilder team for me is probably the hardest one as a free-to-play player, because in the Wilders, the characters that you normally put on the wish list are going to be Arden, and then Damien, and then Almus, and also Lenya, and Lenya was the latest one, so for me, I don't have her properly built yet. So when we look at some of these teams, it does become a bit awkward. So you do have access to Rainier in this one. I believe the other one we have access to is DNL. If you have a high built DNL, then you can definitely try it, but I don't think most people will, so we'll leave that out. And once again, for this one, Team 2, you're basically looking at Euron with Lily to go ahead and get as much damage as possible. We've got the Magic Death Shred and a heavy damage magic damage dealer in there in Lily. You can go for some defenses, or you can go with the Resonator once again in that one. And then for your sub spot, you're looking at using Bryon or Leica. For me personally, I have both of them low dupe. I have Parisa low dupe. I have Lenya low dupe. I have everything low dupe in this one, just because it is a bit of an awkward one that all the characters you build for other aspects of the game aren't really the ones that shine over here. So for me personally, my best damage did come from using a low dupe Parisa in this spot still. It still yielded the best return. I tried my Supreme plus Arden. It didn't work as well for me. Now I could shuffle around the formation a bit more, but in general, that is what I found. And I just ended up using low dupe versions of this build, and it actually worked the best for me. I used this team over here, but I had Florabelle in the final slot, and that turned out to be my best team, even though my Lenya is, I believe, Legendary Plus, and my Parisa is still like Epic Plus. So that still turned out to be my best damage, even though I do have an Arden built. he just, for some reason, it does not churn it out kind of like Parisa does. Now, it could have been an RNG issue. There wasn't much difference in that damage, but it is definitely something that you can go ahead and play around with over there with the Wilders. But like I said, this is the tricky one because a lot of the units people probably won't have built because they're not the highest priority units that we are looking at using over there. And then finally, we jump into the Graveborn. Graveborn is a bit more of a standard one. Talene, once again, not the best if you don't have her high dupes, but I still recommend trying it if you have her at low dupes because she can still churn out and serve her purpose. We got Viperian and we have Niru in here. Now, most people that I've seen along the way and through recommendations from their wish list will have a Niru built and then either a Viperian or a Sylvina built. Whichever one you have built out of those two, that's just what you slap into this one. Unless you have a really high built Carolina, you can try her in there as well. And that is going to be your sort of options. Ludovic, ideally you have him higher duped because then he's going to deal more damage. But even if you don't, he's still perfectly functional. And then we have the Thorin in there as well, who is still a perfectly fine unit, which most people have built for the amplification. If you do have a built Scarlita, you can definitely test her in this one as well. And then we look to the second team, which is going to be Cecilia, who a lot of people once again have built. This is going to be using your Carolina if you used one of the other two in the top team. And then the last spot in this one, in the front spot, is going to be whatever you have left over. Probably just your highest built unit, but there are some options there. But once again, it comes down to, for free to play especially, you're going to be limited on options, but whatever you have the most built, that is going to be the option. Once again, if you do use the Carolina in this top team as well, then you can swap her out for any one of these units as well. And that is a basic look at it. Once again, a massive shout out to Analytica for all their work in putting these things together for the community. I absolutely love it. And once again, as free to play, if you are, or you're low spender, you don't have everything built, unfortunately, you will have to just try and make do with what you have. And once again, sometimes using the low duped versions of these characters in these formations will be the best, but sometimes using your high duped characters who aren't as optimal can work out better. So you just got to shuffle it around. And once again, you can always look at replays on your server to see if people are using low dupe versions of characters and getting decent scores and try and copy what they are doing as well. But anyway, that is it for this one, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.